Okay, I'll do the intermission music.
That's awesome. Okay, second chance. Can you hear?
I think so.
Yeah, very faintly.
There we go.
Oldest song on the good days reminds me of you. Hey,
Okay.
I remember when I used to come over back in the days. Used to come and take.
So we're going to take a couple more minutes for the rest of the people to join us. Welcome, everybody.
Inspire the eye to write the music, so you always been writing consciousness. Well, really and truly, you know, it's like the struggle inspire me still.
And this one called Broken Promises.
Oops.
Broken promises from a government, yeah. Promises from a government, yeah, it's same old promises.
I don't live in a nice stress free, Mr. Step and get that sweet butter up and with the cream. Independent chick ain't no I work, I shine bright like dust. Stars on top and I ain't gon' forget all thanks to God. Keeping it real is a real deal, cause I earn just what when the copy is. So take my advice, don't need to be fake. I'm 100% real, can't copy and pitch. I'm the best you ever see, so take a pitch, cause once I'm gone, that's all you have. This is one memory that will fade. Love my life, living it to the back. Just be careful, you know what it is. I'm a cyber tender that I like. Dedicated to the game, tell it to my last rep. BTS 1 is who I rep. Don't need no man support me, I don't live a life stress free. Mr. Step, yeah, that's me. Trying to rap rap with the queens. Independent chick ain't nowhere.
So whenever you want the lady, hope you alright. I wanna know if I call, is it alright? Cause I ain't trying to support what you do to yourself, but I miss my homegirl and collusion well. I can blame your pops, but that ain't where it stops. Got us in a pot with unspeakable spots. You love it what you do, but it hurts me too. Try to understand, girl, it's cause I love you too.
My name is Lalo. I'm an artist, rapper, writer, producer, sound engineer. Been doing this for a long time. I guess the focus, get to know me a little better would be just to understand my pursuit is just to make more spiritual music.
Responsible for my vessel, sleep, feeding it right. Got my raps, put my hoodie on and running this mic. All in all, it's a journey. Walk the path with your heart. 16, 8 balls for 15. When I sit with my beat, I wake up with my wake up, but it ain't never enough. And that's what yo mistake us. 16, 8 balls for 15. When I sit with my beat, I wake up with my wake up, but it ain't never enough. And that's what yo mistake us. Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2. I want to give a shout out to everybody that came through tonight. I mean, some real good luck. Thank you.
Dana, we're not seeing the video anymore. Just
Whoops.
the desktop.
Sorry.
You can be a young little girl listening to my
Hard to
music
bring it
now,
back.
and you can be able to keep my music
from when you were a young girl all the way to you're a grown woman, because that's just the kind of music that I make, so that it speaks to a wide demographic of not just women, but men as well.
I'm sorry.
Does it uplift?
There it
And
is.
it uplifts, it relates.
Are you calling my phone? Talking off my ear, telling me all kinds of that I don't wanna hear. Well, I guess you called, thinking I'd still feel the same, and now it shocks you to see how I've changed. And this girl right here's so over you, baby, yeah. And this girl right here found something so brand new. And this girl right here's chucking up her doses to you.
Esta vida es como un juego, lo que vengo metiendo sobre la tinta y el papel es ardiente como el fuego. Me miro al espejo, veo mi reflejo y pienso otra vez.
Music has been just like a journey that it hasn't stopped, you know. So I make Dr. Groove, and from there on, you know, I started with my percussion, and I grew, you know, engineering, producing, and from there on I just grew with my music. Yeah.
Yes, make some noise for the Jorge. And we got Kevin on keys. Make some noise for Kevin. Kevin, show us a little something. Kevin Cornwall, also working with us, youth in charge. Amazing keyboardist, you can see. Ah. Clap, let me hear that clap. 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 Yes, now on bass, we got Justin Gray. Make some noise for Justin Gray.
Let's hear from Andres. 1, 2. Let's make some noise for yourself for coming out.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much. This is a really, I love, thanks so much for the tunes and words and from all these musicians you've been working with and Beny. And I really love starting with music. This is a different way than we've started our sessions before. So I'm going to continue this opening with acknowledging the lands we're on here, where York is located, and where I'm here today in Toronto. And to do this, I first want to make an acknowledgement to all the growers of food, the Jibakwe and cooks, the getters of food, and those who are land and water defenders who are keeping spaces to grow and gather healthy food and keep people have healthy places to stay and live. And so miigwech for that nourishment that you offer. Please take the time to consider where you are right now and who's doing this work around you. Also, if you don't already know, learn whose traditional territory you're living on and consider what that means to you. Here at York, there is a land acknowledgement that goes like this. We recognize that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships with territories upon which York University campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. York University acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Tekaronto has been taken care of by the Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat and the Métis. It is now home to many Indigenous peoples, and we acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject of the Dish with One Spoon, Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for Great Lakes region. So, with that said, a big miigwech. So today's MIIJIM session is carrying food, music, and memory. So together with my colleague, who's a professor and author, Honor Ford Smith, musician, producer, Beny Esguerra, and growers, Jacqueline, Dwyer, and Noel Livingston, the founders of the Black Farmers and Growers Collective, are launching a socially engaged art project here called Oral Histories, Music Making, and Food Justice. And this project aims to recover local oral histories of food cultures through musical and sound explorations in search of carrying acts of intergenerational transfer. And I love that idea of this kind of carrying act. That's going to happen through collaboration and through thinking about food justice. So I'm thrilled that they accepted this invitation to talk about their project here and to sort of launch their project here with us. And I really connect with the premise of the project, because through the teaching that I do and in my art practice, I value stories that are passed on through food. And I'm interested in the critical aspects of stories. So how these stories are knowledge and that they're shared across generations. And I'm interested in different ways of telling food stories of the material reality of our lived experiences. I believe that food can carry that story, and of the conditions we've thrived in or endured, also the conditions that sustain and sometimes deprive people. So through this MIIJIM series, we've hosted conversations since the fall, and they've been about Indigenous food sovereignty, Black and Indigenous food systems. There was a session on Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee food. We looked at labor through migrant workers' rights, and this semester we were talking about gardens as remediation and gardens as art. So in organizing all of these talks since the summer, like we started organizing them and thinking about them, Dana and I, in the summer, we sought to create conversations to build connections and solidarity across communities within, and to be able to discuss and have conversations. That was our focus. We really wanted to have conversations that looked at or took up critical issues of labor, food justice, systemic racism, and also issues around Indigenous land. And that's just to name a few. Lots of things came up. So I feel like it's really fitting to end the series with the launch of this project that is about transfer of intergenerational knowledge of food cultures, and also this the food stories that are carried across borders to Toronto, and in a neighborhood that's really close to York University. So The project, I really love that it opens up opportunities for young people to share and learn oral histories and memory, through accessing that memory from the older folks. This sharing opens up, I don't know, I think that sharing really builds upon the stories that are shared. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna read the bios of our guests and then turn things over to Honor Ford-Smith, and she's gonna talk a little about the project, the premise, and how it all came together, and how that initiative began. And then we'll hear from Beny Esguerra to hear about his practice as a music producer and the things he's been doing in the Jane and Finch community. Then we're going to talk to Jacqueline Dwyer and Noel Livingston to learn about their work and their experiences with food. And then after that, we'll start a conversation. And in between, there's going to be music and there'll be words, and you'll likely be invited to participate. So brace yourself. Okay, so I'm going to start with the bios. Noel Livingston is an urban farmer, a musician, a writer, a food agro processor, and a founding member of the Toronto Black Farmers and Food Growers Collective. Creating byproducts from the produce he grows. He is also a health and wellness coach, which is the lifestyle that he shares with his community. He's avid about community development, food policy, food justice, and the continued growth of healthy African family and the Black Farmers Collective food community food model. So I'm glad you're here, Noel. Jacqueline Dwyer is a passionate community organizer, farmer, and a founding member of the Toronto Black Farmers and Food Growers Collective. Her mission is to grow clean food and create a safe space that empowers food insecure people. She wants to see all generations of people within the African diaspora realize affordable foods, create food sustainability through varied means, which will in turn develop resilience and strong sense of community. Jacqueline loves to hold sprout workshops and is a great cook, as well as sharing her knowledge about food justice. She has a Master's of Environmental Studies from York University and has been a research assistant for Finding Flowers project. So that's another wonderful thing about having you here, Jacqueline, is that you worked with us on Finding Flowers. And I also had the honor of working with you during your master's degree. So that was great. So Beny Esguerra, aka Dr. Rue, lives and works in Jane Finch and arrived from Colombia as a political refugee with his parents, who were receiving threats for their human rights activism. Today, Beny Esguerra is a Juno-nominated musician-producer, poet, arts educator, and community worker. As a musician, producer, and poet, he leads new traditional music, performing regularly in national and international festivals. As an arts educator, he has designed courses taught at Canadian universities. He is a visiting artist in schools across Ontario and recently received the 2021 Artist Educator Award from the Ontario Arts Foundation. All right, congratulations on that. As a community worker, he is the music director of several Jane Finch arts programs, including Samila's Katina and Right Path World Arts, Latinas, and Right Path World Arts, while co-leading the NTM Mobile Studio project, which provides free equipment and mentorship to Jane Finch artists across different neighborhoods. Releasing a yearly volume of albums called Wheel It Studios. So they're releasing these yearly volumes of songs. Ruben is a PhD, ABD candidate in musicology, ethnomusicology, specializing in Colombian traditional music and hip hop culture. His upcoming album, A New Tradition, Volume 3, combines spoken word and hip hop with Latin rhythms and melodies, set to be released on Lula World Records, the Lula World Records label in 2021. All right, awesome. Honor Ford-Smith is an associate professor in cultural and artistic practices for environmental and social justice in the Faculty of Environmental and Urban Change at York University. Ford-Smith came to voice in the context of the Caribbean social movements of the 1970s, devising an approach to performance that focuses on community-based, socially engaged collaboration, and that stresses testimony, autobiography, and ceremonial and ritual structures. Her most recent work is a performance cycle that commemorates those who have died as a result of state violence and the violence of armed strong men in the Caribbean and its diaspora. Her current research is on decolonization, social movements, and performance in the Caribbean, and her publications include numerous scholarly articles, 3 Jamaican plays, Kingston, Jamaica, Paul Issa Publications, and My Mother's Last Dance, an anthology of poems available through the University of Toronto Press. So welcome to you all, to Noel, Jacqueline, Beny, and Honor. It's so amazing to have you here. I wanted to, now that I've welcomed you, and thank you for your generosity of being here, I wanted to just turn it over to Honor and ask you if you want to do a bit of an intro and give us an idea about the project, how it started, and what's it about. And you're muted, just so you know.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, yep.
I just want to say, Dana, one of my earphones is conked out. I hope that's okay and not going to affect any of the other things that we did. So, yeah, so I only have one ear. I want to give some thanks to Lisa and also to Dana, and to thank them especially for all the work they put into this session. It was kind of like herding cats, but they didn't ever get angry with us. And so I want to thank them. I also want to say that Lisa is an advisor on this project, which is, we're just trying to get started. And so we're very grateful for that. And also, she's a colleague at work and very supportive colleague. So, you know, I'm really grateful that she invited us to be here. I also want to give a shout out to the 2 Karens in the audience, Karen Cyrus and Karen Burke, who also are connected to this project. And Karen Cyrus is probably going to have to be involved more than she even knows. So I just wanted to thank her in advance, and to also to thank the Carswell Chair and Regents Park School of Music, with whom we have partnered to start this project. So Lisa, you're ending just as we are beginning. So we are thinking of this as the first step in this project, which today we're calling Carrying Food, Music and Memory. And basically, this is just a tiny step in a process which will bring together students, researchers at York University, and community members to begin to share local histories of food cultures through intergenerational music making in the service of urban food justice. I feel a bit like an imposter because I'm not a community member. I'm not a food person. I'm very good at eating it, but not so good at growing it. And I'm also not a music person. So what on earth am I doing here? Well, I'm here because of memory. That's how I connect to this work. And I'm really interested in how intergenerational knowledge is carried across borders. And I'm also interested in the labors of memory, which allow us to connect what we are doing here to the struggles of those who went before us, but the struggles of those who are also maybe not within these national borders, but who are there, elsewhere, wherever our ancestors came from. And I think it's important to look at how those memories circulate, because without those struggles and without those memories, many of us wouldn't be in this room. Many of us wouldn't be able to be in an institution like York. And those struggles continue, and we stand on their shoulders. So it's important for us to nurture this intergenerational memories, and also to look at what happens to it when it crosses borders. What forces destroy it? What forces allow us to remake our memories, and with what consequences? Me and this earphone do not agree. Okay. So how did I come to this project? Well, basically, I came to the project through Lisa and Jackie, and if anything goes wrong, it's all their fault. That's a joke. You can laugh. Jackie was working in our faculty, and I had the privilege of sitting on her exam committee. And I went to the exam, and she talked about her food growing practice here in Toronto. And she also, I asked her, how did she come to do this work? And she told me the story of growing up in Jamaica with her granny in Maxfield Park Avenue, on Maxfield Park Avenue, which is right smack blam in the middle of the city. And she told me that she learned how to grow food and how to trade food from her granny. And she recounted this story. Well, I immediately connected with it because those are the women that fed me when I was growing up. And over the years, as I have gotten older, I've noticed how the food systems that Jackie describes have been eroded and changed in our society. So what was amazing to me was that Jackie and Noel, but I didn't know Noel yet. Jackie and Noel were continuing this tradition in Toronto, of all places, in the middle of ice and snow, and were forging forward to make a huge difference. As Black farmers, they were bringing this old food tradition that had been developed in the context of enslavement and plantation society, and they were bringing it here into Toronto. So I thought, wow, this is really inspiring. People need to know that this is going on. And not only that, we also need to find other folks who are doing similar things within the context of their own cultural histories which are not the dominant cultural histories of people who experience racism, who experience classism, who are excluded in many different ways. So that's how it sparked. That was how it sparked. And then for a long time, I couldn't figure out how to give it form. And I thought and thought about it, and I remembered the work of this one academic. His name is Joseph Roach, and he has a fancy theory, which is called surrogation. And his idea is that when you cross the borders, you often lose something. When you lose something, you substitute something. So into the cavities of loss, into the holes that are left by something that you've been forced to leave behind, or something that you've been forced to cut yourself off for, that this hole is something you put a substitute into. And he calls that substitution surrogation. And he says that is a key mechanism in the reproduction of cultural memory in the Black Atlantic. And in a way, it's the process through which people attempt to build something new from the loss that allows us to continue and to reproduce what is most important to us in memory, what is most important to us in the present. So this process of substitution or recreation is, in my view, something that Beny is doing in his music. And he's doing it all the time. He doesn't probably call it that, but he's doing that as a practice, something in a way that his life depends on, just as my life depends on eating certain Jamaican foods to carry me through the week on a Sunday. So that was kind of how it started. Now, Jackie was important to me because the tradition that she is talking about, as I mentioned, is a tradition that is quite denigrated. It is not denigrated just in Canada. It is denigrated partly because of anti-Black racism throughout the world. But the point is that this tradition of women growing food and agriculturalists in the Caribbean is something that enabled people to survive enslavement. During enslavement, Caribbean people ate mostly really awful food. There were constant food shortages, and the food that they were given to eat was mostly food that white people didn't want to eat. So it was inner parts of animals, a lot of it. A lot of it was salted cod, which was brought from Canada. Not a lot of it. There was a ration of salted cod, which was given to families at periods. And that salted cod was part of an arrangement, a transnational arrangement around colonial food economies, which saw the production of food in the Caribbean and then its exchange with Nova Scotia. So that the basis of the colonial food economy was this export of what we produced. And we were always producing not for our own consumption, but in order to supply the colonial market elsewhere. So everything we produced in the Caribbean was for export, it wasn't for ourselves. And so what Jackie was doing here is very important because it was the way in which food became a practice of resistance to this colonial food economy. And by planting yam, by planting sweet potato, by planting cassava, people were able to begin to build nutritious economies based on the labor of women. And those women would carry the food on their heads as they went from place to place. And that business of carrying the food on their heads is what made the road system in the Caribbean. It was those women carrying hundreds of pounds of food on their head that built the food system. And that tradition gave us an alternative vision. That is a tradition that allowed us not just to see where we are at now, but where we want to go, what a future might be without extraction. Now, where there's food, food carries memory. Food carries the scent of memory, the scent of the discovery of the spices that we all love to eat. But each memory also carries a song. And so I want to just journey back in time a little bit and to look at some of the food, some of the music that is associated with the food. Some of the things that we need to pay attention to as we begin to mix these intergenerational memories, as we begin to mix the memories of the past. So I wanted to ask Dana if she would play the first song that I chose, which is a song that is an old song, and it's a work song originally, but it's put in a more modern and contemporary form here. I'll talk a little bit about it. This is a song called Sammy Dead, which most Jamaicans would know.
Sammy plant piece of corn down a gully, and he beer till he kill poor Sammy. Sammy dead, Sammy dead, Sammy dead, oh. Sammy dead,
Sammy dead, Sammy dead, Sammy dead, oh.
And no thief, Sammy thief, make them kill him.
Okay, so you can hear the rhythm, but you can also hear there's a pause at the rhythm. And here's the pause. But I and that is the space in the music where the singer man who would be leading the chorus would allow a space for people to bring down the hoe or bring down the pickaxe or bring down whatever implement they were working with in unison together to make the whole. So there are a whole tradition of digging songs which have to do with digging to plant, and often digging to plant yam. So that is one of the roots of the relationship between food, memory, and music. I wanted to just play a Jamaican musicologist talking about that. Dana, could you go to Miss Lewin? This is a very famous musicologist who did some of the first work on sort of formalizing Jamaican food system. Can you show us the?
Do you want me to show the video?
If possible, yeah. Just want to show the rhythm.
Just 1 second.
So yeah, so this is she's dead now, unfortunately, but she did some of the most important work codifying and collecting all this music in the period just after independence.
Fourth beat, to me, is very often accented. You get.
But she's singing another digging song and she's demonstrating how it works. Ilangoli, and you bend down low. Ilangoli. So that was what I was.
The same thing happens in mento.
Trying to show.
So on, and you know, any mento you take, you'll get.
So
that.
she is.
I'm sure it has some significance. We haven't found out what it is.
She is drawing a connection between another form, which is mento, and the digging song. So everything, all of this musical rhythm and all of the memories that are carried in these musical rhythms are also carried through into more popular forms, more forms that are not so obviously linked to the plot, to the growing of food, and forms which are also linked to this business of women carrying food in order to distribute it. So this example, which is the last from these older forms I'm going to play, is being sung by Louise Bennett, who is very well known as a Jamaican performer of a certain era. And she's singing a very famous song called Carry Me Aki Go Linstead Market, which means I took my Aki to Linstead Market. And she is, you will see the relationship between the mento and the digging song. And what she's singing about here is the difficulty that the people who sold in the markets faced, and the trouble that they had in order to be able to eat and to provide food for their children in the context of the plantation economy. So this is a story about a woman who carries her load on her head to the market to sell, and when she gets there, there's nobody to buy it. So Dana, could you do the honors?
Carry me Aki go to Linstead Market, not a quantity what sell. Carry me Aki go to Linstead Market, not a quantity what sell. Oh Lord, not a might, not a bite, what a Saturday night. Lord, not a might, not a bite, what a Saturday night.
So this particular popular form, which is very much overlaps, as Beny would recognize, with many of the sounds, many of the creolized sounds of the Latinx Caribbean, in particular Cuba, but also Haiti and Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, morphs as Kingston becomes more urbanized. And one of the things that doesn't change is the importance of food as a source of resistance. And it is through Rastafari, a religion which kind of comes to voice and comes to public acclaim and attention beginning in the 1930s, that you get a new idea of food culture developing, and a more militant notion that a different form of eating is possible. And in fact, that a different form of what we call livity is possible in the context of anti-imperial struggle. And Rasta was a force, a social movement, which gave voice to that. And the idea was that you wouldn't eat deadas, you wouldn't eat pork, you would eat green, natural or ital food, and you would eat that instead of living off the colonial food system, which depended on white flour and, as I said before, not so great pieces of meat and preserved and salted imported food. So in that moment when Rasta comes to voice, this idea of a new kind of way of eating comes to be, and this is carried in the music as well. So we're going to hear another piece of music, which is Rastafari, and it's Rastafari drumming, and it's people talking over the top of Rastafari, over the top of the drumming, and I'm sure we can go into the roots of where all of that drumming comes from, but it's this idea of reasoning and teaching ideas through music that is in a way another thing that connects to this project. So let's do the Ground Nation piece. Is it? No. Okay. So this is Count Ozzy and the Mystic Revelations of Rastafari, one of my all-time favorites. And Count Ozzy died, and this is, could you move it forward a little because time, I've run over. Oh boy, I've run way over. Can you move it a bit forward? I just want them to hear the toasting. If we start at about 12 seconds, I think we'll be fine.
Is repatriation.
Okay, so here it is.
Home, Africa.
So this is the idea that you talk over
Revelation
music
5.
in order to teach your ideas. And one of the teachments is this notion of a way of living, which is an alternative to the colonial system. And this way of living involves food. I think I've made my point that that in a way food and memory are interconnected, and that by looking at the alternative forms of food production that exist in the global south and that have been brought to Toronto through migrants from the global south, we can begin to dimly perceive an alternative vision, a future beyond extraction, a future which has in a way been put into being by some of the people who have gone before us. And we want to put those attempts in the past into conversation with the attempts that people are making in the present. Thank you.
It gave light to the Rastafari movement because we have seen a hope in our heritage. As it was written, the Holy Writ, Psalms 37. By the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hung our harps upon the midst of the willows thereof. For they that carried us away captives required from us a song.
Thanks, Honor. That was really amazing. Just thinking about the anti-imperial, so sort of anti-imperial food movement as also a non-extractive, and I think about just relating to it in terms of a lot of Indigenous people turning to nourishing our bodies with traditional foods and consciously thinking about the rejection of sort of the 5 white gifts and the white flour and all of these things, but also the colonial, mention of colonial food economy and this kind of almost like counter-colonial landscapes, like if you think about gardens or cultivation in the landscape. So I really appreciate that. And learning about the musicologist, is it Olive Lewin?
Olive Lewin, yes.
Yeah,
Olive Lewin.
I love that because, it was just, I want to check out more of her work and how you connected the food to through memory to the music, to the beats. It just makes me think about, I'm really interested in music and sound and the way it affects our bodies, even just the vibration that as well. So it's thanks so much. It's really great. I'm just kind of transitioning over here, and I think that now we're going to go over and talk to Jacqueline and hear from Jacqueline and Noel. So Jacqueline and Noel, do you, I believe, yeah. I just just checking my schedule, make sure I'm on point here. Yeah, so Jacqueline and Noel, did you want to share your stories about what you do in, your story of food in Jamaica, but also to Toronto? Noel, you maybe talk about some of the traditional farmers in Jamaica, but also I know that Jacqueline, you're going to talk about your story and tell your story. So it's over to you now. If you want to unmute yourself. Oh, you are unmuted. Okay, there you go.
So thanks for having us, everybody, and thanks for taking the time to listen to our stories and our journey. My name is Jacqueline, and I am one of the co-founders of the Toronto Black Farmers Collective. And I'm here today to share the knowledge of carrying food, the music that carries it, and the memory of the ancestors that made this possible, because they planted seeds, and we are the seeds that have germinated.
Yeah, my name is Noel. I actually am very touched to see how Jackie mentioned about the seeds that were planted by our ancestors. And my father was one of those people who was very instrumental in the agricultural aspect of it in Jamaica at the time. And we were actually, it was kind of a bartering system because there was not access to a lot of money. We'll go further, but so, as we go on today, we will be sharing some of our experiences and the knowledge that we have acquired from others, the ancestors, and even today as we speak with others outside of the culture.
So my granny was, we call them higglers in Jamaica. In Africa, they say traders. She was a higgler, and she would sell at Haywood Street Market and Coronation Market. And in her off day, she would bring a smaller market to where we live in Maxfield Avenue. And in between that, she would plant gardens around the yard. And the funny thing about the gardens that she planted around the yard, that food was always to share with our neighbors who sometimes didn't have a yard to plant in or didn't have access to plant. And a lot of times our food insecure, like what we're talking about now, food poverty and food insecurity. And so as Anna referred to Maxfield Avenue, it really is one of our urban cultural districts on every level. And it was a very vibrant and welcoming place. Food was always the nucleus of every gathering, and music. I remember that very vividly. And so when we talk about food production today, we talk about, field growing, perennial growing, all of that stuff. But that was also happening in Jamaica. And at the time, we were so privileged as young people, or everybody, that we always had food around us. I remember as a young person, any given time in the year or in the seasons, we had at least 3 or 4, sometimes 5 fruits eating. And so what I saw my grandmother being that force, that giver, always giving, always sharing. And the irony there, it's always many people always show up to benefit from this food, even if they didn't help. They show up. Nature, the universe has a way to bring people together. And through this whole process, I learned how to cook very well. I started cooking when I was about 9. And I'm not talking, just making little snacks here and there. I'm talking making meals. And again, I like to cook heavy because I always know that somebody or a group of people, again, will show up to eat. And so through food, I've learned many things. I've learned to be resilient. I've learned to be, I'm passionate naturally, but the passion comes out a lot when I talk about these things. And I also learned to be very vocal as it pertains to oppression and marginalization of everybody, not just our people, but all people who should have access to good, healthy food. We were put on a planet that unconditionally, hands down, give us the opportunity to feed ourselves well. And so many of us has lost the knowledge, have lost the skills, but we are creating opportunities to reskill our folks. I felt that, you know, being in Jamaica every day, I was privileged to eat fresh and healthy. And it was always, I never planted anything. It was the elders we always have around us who are always telling us, Pitney, wanna come sit down and listen and watch and learn. And, you know, as young people, sometimes we giggle, but we follow the elders and we sit down and we watch them and we plant the seed somewhere. But we didn't know that at times, you know, when we grew up and our life path take us in different parts of the world, that this knowledge would become so relevant and important and vital. And it's also a very huge part of activism, because right now we have to stand up for our food system anywhere we are in the world. And there's a lot of people who I give so much credence to that are doing this work. Indigenous peoples from every walks of life, old people, young people who are tired of eating garbage and making their bodies sick, getting all kinds of allergies. They're rising up, and they're rising up in numbers. So we know that it is something very powerful, and we know that the universe is saying, yes, it's full time that we take care of Mama Earth, because Mama Earth always takes care of us. So as we continue to walk the journey, and as we continue, you know, to listen, and we should be listening to our elders, because they have so much knowledge that they want to leave with us, so much things that they want to part with us. I also learned from the space I was born in, which is Kingston, Jamaica, Maxfield, the intersect of this very infamous avenue, and what it connected us to. It connected us to other main roads, roadways, to these markets that I spoke about. It connected us to very affluent neighborhoods. They call it now, here they would say that we're talking about middle-class people. We had all of that around us. But the one thing that you see, people come out starting from a Thursday in where I lived in Maxfield, because we had a very formal market there that farmers would leave from the country and come to the city to sell their produce. And that started Thursday and it ended Saturday evening. And again, every walks of life, people would come to the market to buy their food and felt very good about exchanging money for this beautiful food. So the Higlas are a huge part of this culture. And I know that many of them died without being acknowledged and are being recognized for what they did. As Honor said earlier, they carry these baskets on their heads, selling, walking through the streets of Kingston, selling so that they could take care of their families, because after the colonial, the era of enslavement, people now were left to figure it out on their own. And so for a lot of these women, it was, growing on the land and selling this food so that they could take care of themselves and their family and send their children to school and do other things that was important, that we, the descendants of, at the time, they weren't getting any support from a system who continued to oppress and suppress them. So the Higlas, everywhere you go and you see somebody trading or selling, they're Higlas, and they're doing that because they're creating their own social economy, their own economics. And it is never it has never been talked about in the way that they also are a very, very important part of this food system. I don't want to say industrialized, because when I say industrialized, then we start thinking about big trucks and big this. I'm talking about these everyday brick and mortar people that had to survive on their own and had to do it unconditionally with what they had. Like they say, pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. So my grandmother was one of those persons, and I met many other elders who are not all now ancestors, because she died 1978, and she died 1979, and it was very, very, up until today, my mother, which is her daughter, has never gotten over that, because we still carry these memories of her. And we still have people that always, when they see us, they talk about her and they talk about the things she used to do. So as I intersected 1978, that was the time I came to Canada. I came to Canada around the 25th or the 27th of January. It was a lot of snow outside. They met me at the airport with a coat. And I looked outside and I'm like, oh, it's cold out here. And they said, well, this is most of the year and you got to go to school and you got to do everything. And then when I came to Oakwood and St. Clair area. That's where my mom lived. And I learned so many things. And it was after I started opening up my mind to this new adventure of Canada, I also was culturally shocked, because a lot of things that I took for granted at home was not the same here. I didn't have the elders I could go to. If I had questions, I had to figure it out on my own. And when my mother had to go to work, she would leave the house 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work in a factory. I had to get myself, she would call me at about maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock sometimes, to wake me up for school. And I would ask her, where are you? And she said, I'm at work. And I'm saying, you're always at work these hours? And she said, yes, this is how it is here. But then quickly, I started looking around me, and I was very inquisitive. So I started looking around me, and I had 2 neighbors. My neighbor to my left were Greeks, and my neighbor to my right were Italians. And the Italians were very friendly. And the wife, my first spring there, started showing me culturally what food was for them and how they preserve food and how they grew in their yard. And also how they value storing food so that when they can't grow outside, that they would have some food to feed their families. But then in the intersect of that, that education or that awareness, I also learned about, the violence of racism, very, very in your face. Lester Donaldson was a mentally ill Black man, and he he was getting sick, and his wife called for help. It was 911, and the police came, and they executed him in his house and killed him. And so a few days later, going out on the street with my mother, and coming back inside, I noticed a group of people, Black people, coming down Oakwood Avenue, coming south on Oakwood with bullhorns, and they were protesting, and it was the murder that had happened. And that's when I was privileged to have seen Dudley Laws, who's now an ancestor, in action. And it opened up my eyes to this layer that we call community, living in a community, what that means, the accountability, and that irregardless of where we come from or what we are, we have to stand up as a community. So I learned that at 14 when I came here. And I grew up with that. And I went to school, and I said, eventually, I wanted to work in my community. Went to Humber College, and I did their community work program there, and I came out. But I, again, informally, always were in the community, helping, advocating, supporting anyhow I could, and in the interim, got connected into the ecosystem of this community work. And what I saw then, I'm still seeing it now. But what I know is that once we're knowledgeable about what is happening to us, we have the power to change it. We truly have the power to change it. And so everywhere I've gone, everywhere I've been, even with my children, I've shared that information. I've shared that knowledge about being self-reliant, standing up for yourself. Don't be afraid of anyone who's trying to bully you. You have a big voice to use it. And I also encourage the community on a whole to always come together and to stand together in unison to dismantle violence, which is racism and other forms of intolerances. Stand together. Adjusting to my life here, I didn't have to worry. Now there's a new dynamics in the midst, and it was always about racism on every level. Racism when I came to school, them tell me say I don't speak English, so they want to put me in ESL, which is called, I don't know about now, but back then it was called English as a Second Language. Now we come from a colony called Jamaica, where Britain ensure, so them enforce the education system there. We spoke perfect English, but we also had our own language, which we call Patois Jamaica. And we spoke it very fluently in schools, everywhere we were as young people. We were teaching others to speak it. So it was a very interesting intersect. Food being the nucleus, but we had other tentacles growing out of that. And I noticed everywhere we went at the time when I was in high school. So I started at Winona Public School, elementary public school, and then I left there and then I went to the original Central High School of Commerce. It was a business school. And when we went there, we were the first set of Black students to come to that school because it was mainly Europeans and Asians. Once we got there, we opened up the road for all the others to come. And once we got into the school, we became activists in the school. We were doing a lot of things. We took over our student body. We were secretary and president of our student body. We were always standing up and raising our voice as it pertains to injustice from school. So it wasn't surprising in the long run that, me, an individual, would continue to carry the legacy of, these elders, my grandmother, to stand up for this trade, farming, food, and the land and the people. And so far, it has not been an easy ride. And it has not been an easy walk, simply because call it out. We don't pretty it up, we call it out, and we tell folks it is your right. Good food, so it's good water. It's not a right, it's not a privilege, it is our right because we were created with it. And right now, we are trying to reseed for the community, the knowledge that we've all lost, many of us. Reseed the activism. Look at ways as to how we educate and reskill ourselves, and how spiritually we take care of ourselves and the land, because they're very much connected. We also use art as a way to talk to people, and I know that farming is art because every year when we plant these illustrious fields of food, it artistically just shows its diversity in every way, its strength, its beauty, its colors, its readiness to harvest. and sharing it with each other is very important and beautiful. Now, in Canada, we talk about the food system as an industrial one, and it is. It has many moving parts. It is always not fair and not equitable. And we see a lot of that on the ground from the work we do with Toronto Black Farmers Collective. And we also, experience ourselves before we started growing on this level, the injustice as it pertains to access to good, healthy food in the neighborhoods where most of us live, and what comes in there and how much more we have to pay for it. So we decided as plant-based eaters, we were going to change that for ourselves. And we decided to start growing, doing that outreach, growing the tentacles into the arena. We came into the arena very innocently, but we learned very quickly that it was devilish and oppressive. And we're still fighting, but now we're using our voice to alert others who are in the same boat to come together, to unify and learn, and through activism, make the change, because that's the only way. When we keep the pressure on, we're going to make the change. And I also know that anywhere you go in the world, food is food, and everybody has the right and the privilege to access that food, but it takes work. So I hope that sometime when you have the time or you want, you come and learn with us. Thank you.
Okay. So, again, my name is Noel. My father was a farmer with the government of Jamaica. Actually, I grew up in a farming community, but I also saw poverty in the sense that although we were privileged as my father's children to escape the plague of hunger and homelessness and nakedness, but we saw poverty because the society is very class structured. And so, there was food in a lot of spaces, but we didn't see any cash flow. There wasn't much cash flow. So that encouraged a lot of farmers and people just grow to barter. So if you have chickens and the next person has, cows or goats, they'll barter. And this is how we literally survive. So that aspect is good. Because I mentioned earlier about how class structured the society was and still is. When I look at food right now and to see the things that we have access to in Jamaica, I realized that my father was one of the pioneers. They did the farm he used to work on, they did a lot of experiments. I guess that's why for whatever reason, I am very interested in that right now, because we've been working on that since we started out here with the Black Farmers Collective. See what's feasible here, what could grow here, stuff like that. So as I mentioned, he was one of the pioneers, but because of how class structured the society is, we find that they were not given the recognition for the hard work that they did and how successful that was, still is. And this is why we are able to eat certain foods. But I was never a farmer there because there was no need at the time to grow food. I had everything I wanted when it comes to food. My mom used to fight us just to eat because there's so many fruits, 5, 6 different fruits in the morning. You don't want boiled banana or yams. It's too heavy anyway. So, everything was fresh. But when I really got into growing was when I left Jamaica. And I went to the Cayman Islands for a while. And I realized everything was imported. And because the transition for me was trying to consume a plant-based food. So that was difficult. And so that's where I started. But the core of it was when we really came to Canada. And that was something else too. Everything, we want to an industrialized nation where everything is mass production. Notice that the apples the bananas don't taste as bananas. They look like banana. I haven't seen any seeds in the banana, organic banana. We have had several workshops on that and showing people like bananas have seeds. And they're like, what? Yeah. Anything that you're going to grow comes from a seed or you're a cutting, but basically it's from a seed. So the food poverty, and I was able to differentiate. I always say there's poverty and there's poverty, because when you don't have anything here, you're really poor. Back home, you have land, you have food, but you're poor because you don't have the cash flow and the opportunities are not there in opposed to here. So that really pushed me to be more inquisitive, so to speak, in trying to identify some of the things that I would really eat or need to eat to sustain my health. And so we started out when I met Jackie, it was about the arts, because I came here as an artist too. And so I look at food and I see how artistic that can be. Creativity. We're creating byproducts as we speak from some of the stuff we grow in a very, moderate and humble way, but there's huge potential for that. So, and one of the avenues that I use, because I find so much solace and tranquility when I work within, whether the greenhouse or just out there in the field, I get a lot of inspiration. And as a person who loves the arts and involved in the arts, that gives me a lot of inspiration to write and to just express myself. I'm not very good standing up on a podium and really, saying certain things, but I do it through music. So I find myself through music. And what inspires me is through farming, growing food. So just, in a nutshell, this is basically what I do as one of the members of Black Farmers Collective. And I find that earlier on when Hannah mentioned about how people had to go and, especially the women who worked so hard and got nothing for their produce. We know that even though we're experiencing that, because not everybody, and this is why the educational component is imperative for us to start spread the word, because a lot of people, it's not because they don't want certain things to eat or they don't eat it, it's because they don't know how to prepare it. So, that in itself is one way for us to put the word out and to start having, we talk about shared knowledge, and we interact with people very much in that sense, where we can actually, learn other cultures and see how the other cultures consume food. And that's a way I find that food is that nucleus, is that magnet that brings people together and break down barriers. And we learn from each other and learn to respect each other's culture. And that's a part of the Black Farmers Collective. One of our mandates that we see where this is a way to break down barriers, and we learn to respect, not to tolerate each other, but to respect each other more. Yeah, in a nutshell, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Jacqueline and Noel, for sharing your stories. And then that point of, Jacqueline, when you were talking about finding community through the community activism is really touching. And I really appreciate you both, sharing, from your heart, and appreciate how you're kind of you're reseeding here, not receding, like as in pulling back, but like putting seeds in the ground. And
Yes.
with these stories, like you're kind of replanting them here today with all of us. So it's really nice. It's really important histories for us to understand that those moments, through the 70s and through your growing up there too, Noel, and your points around the class division in Jamaica, as well as that kind of sense of it's really interesting, like around having the food to eat, but it's a different kind of experience of poverty that happens there. It's really, thanks so much for that. I think that now we're going to go over to Beny, right? And hear about Beny's work, and then we'll and then Beny's going to bring Jacqueline and Ruben and Jacqueline and Noel back in with a little bit of a MIIJIM session. Just kidding. Okay, over to you there, Beny. Thanks a lot, Jacqueline and Noel.
Lisa.
All right, Beny. What you got?
Shepherd Avenue.
I am Shoreham Court. I am Awareness Road.
I am G-Side. I am J Street.
There's a thin line between love and hate disappears the more borders we break. There's a thin line between love and love disappears the more borders we make.
Yeah, one time for the north side, two time for the south side. Jellyfish, one block, one love, more life. Let's do it right. It's more than love, it's more than hugs. Money, power, and life. I'm talking about living life like Christ. I'm talking about getting it, doing it right.
Doing it right. I don't think they done seen what we done seen. Raising a note but recording the south. Why you think TP be killing this beat? Yeah, I'm the man, breaking this beef. You know them brothers go stand in the streets. Why you wasting time with all of this hating? My peoples forget it, let's get it and hate.
We're torn apart, so let's stand as one. And the war will put down the guns. Throw away the hate, let's build around the peace of. Now it's up to us to speak loud, to mixing passion with talent. Now historic music's made.
In my dedication to the people, throwing up a fist to be equal, but they tryna break up all my brothers, attract them with some colors. We did it on our own, so we left our hoes up under and leaving pay from others. But now we take another. I think I'm gonna cry. Give me one more reason for the season while they always reaching on the weekend. Woo, woo. We're the white man, this and everything.
There's
all the meaning.
A thin line between love and hate disappears the more borders we break. There's a thin line between love and love disappears the more borders we make.
Thin line between love and hate. I love to love and they love to hate. I don't debate, sit back and I meditate. Focus on the food that's on my plate. I'm showing love, you can't relate. Listen, love, unity in the community, that's what we need, that's what we are.
They don't wanna see me shine, but I stand with my fist high. I was born to shine, so tell the devil he a lie. Aiming for success, with pride in my eyes. I'm the man, the great in disguise. Great in disguise.
I'm counting the seconds, I'm counting the days. I would love for us to just rearrange. We channel our pain, we turn it to strength. Fighting the power and not one another. We conquer our enemies, bridging the gap. Support one another, forgetting the cap. Dismantle the system, we not turning back. We dismantle the system, we fighting it back. Yeah.
Got us wild and drift with another down grammar me. 50 sound ran away, youth in church still a dream. 30,000 stories in a couple buildings. Better keep a sixth sense when you come to these sense. Shout out to the real ones, the hardworking people, the moms who are single, elders with wisdom, a place full of children, dreams and ambition.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Dana. All right. My name is Beny Esguerra, and I'm very happy to be here sharing my work and sharing my music with all of you. My connection with this project is, the role of music and the building of communities and musical memory. So a little bit about myself. I was born in present-day Colombia, which is in traditional Muisca territory, and I was born in a neighborhood, very popular neighborhood called Policarpa Sarbarigueta, which is named after a heroine of independence against the Spanish royalties in Colombia before it was Colombia, and it's a neighborhood with a long history of resistance. It was established by landless, indigenous, and mestizo peasants who were displaced by a war at the time called La Violencia, which was one of a bipartisan war that kind of still going on to this day. And out of that war where different armed guerrilla movements surfaced. So the neighborhood was established by, like I said, landless peasants, indigenous mestizo peasants. Amongst them was my grandmother and cousins and aunties, and they were the first people who took over a land that was built it was right beside a hospital in 1961, and it was occupied during Easter weekend. They planned it because it was a time where the police was not observing, and they built tents and they went in, and they populated the land with tents, and eventually built tunnels that intercepted the water pipes of the hospital where I was born. and students and the workers movements joined into the resistance until the mayor had to recognize the neighborhood. And so that's a little bit of my background, and why I find so much, why I'm passionate about community and the building of communities. Many of the people who came out of that neighborhood are also artists, including my family, my cousin, who's also, he lives in Toronto. I started my professional career with him. He was also nominated for a Juno Award in the 90s. And my parents continued that work as social activists and artists in the 80s, doing work, arts education work in different communities surrounding Bogota. And we had to come here during at the late 80s, when entire left-wing political movements like the Unión Patriótica were being disappeared by repressive U.S.-backed state. And we had to come to Toronto, Turtle Island, as political refugees. Really early on, I was politicized because of this, and I gravitated toward music and traditional music, but also hip-hop culture. And I began to work in the Jane and Finch community in the late 90s, and with youth organizations. One of them was called Unilat, United Youth of Latin America. I also worked at Keel and Finch at a cultural space called Casa Maíz, which is where I direct a summer camp called Semillas Latinas. I also worked at the Center for Spanish-Speaking People at Jane and Wilson as a volunteer. But it wasn't until 2010 that I began to work at the San Romano Way Revitalization Association, which is right in the heart of Jane and Finch. And there are several programs in that organization. There's a seniors program, a children's program, and a youth in charge studio, which is where the first video that you saw was shot. And that was a program that I directed called the Palisades Media Arts Academy, where essentially it was a curriculum that I designed where the participants would go through a whole year, and at the beginning they would learn how to create their own instrumentals, because many of the artists were using instrumentals that didn't belong to them. They were getting them off YouTube and then just singing their lyrics on top of these instrumentals. So in the end, it was great music, but they weren't able to own the music that they created. They weren't able to sell it. They weren't able to put it online. So the first thing was to empower the participants by teaching them how to create their own beats, their own instrumentals. Then the next step was writing lyrics on top of the instrumentals. Then the next step was learning how to design their own album cover, then how to market their music, and then the year would culminate with a final CD release / graduation event where they would get to perform their original music with a live band and sell their CDs to the audience. And that's what you saw. What you saw was the second cohort. It was the first cohort. There was 3 years that were supposed to take place. Only 2 took place because there was we began to see that there were different issues happening in the community on organized in terms of the organizations, the non-for-profit organizations, but also on a street level. And one of those issues was the organization. There were the working conditions were really poor for many of the different programs. So to make us a long story short, we all came together, decided to form a union. And as soon as the union got we signed the union cards, the board of directors and the executive director decided to stifle that and terminated the work of the program directors that were involved in the organizing. And as a result, the youth program was shut down and the youth were left without the studio, and we weren't able to complete our third cohort and our third program. So that was one of the reasons that it led us to form a mobile recording studio, which is the one that the video that you just saw. That was one of the singles of our first album. And there were these issues about space that with the organizations and nonprofits, but there was also the issue of tensions amongst people in different neighborhoods that has been going on for many years, and it's just tensions that are street tensions that also have not allowed artists from different neighborhoods to collaborate. There's an anxiety for many artists to travel across neighborhoods. So we created this mobile project in order for us, the studio, to go to the artists instead of the artists coming to the studio. So we set up one day during the week at the Boys and Girls Club on Driftwood Court on the north side of the community, and then another day we set up at the Boys and Girls Club at on Grand Ravine on the south side of the community. And then we create this bridge so that artists could get to know each other, get to collaborate, and put an album at the end of each year. And we did it successfully last year as well. During the pandemic, we were able to create a physical distance recording kit and still continue to provide the services to the artists. And then this year, we're currently halfway through our third year, and already we have the album. The album is pretty much ready. We have over 12 tracks that we have to choose from, and now we just got to sit down and arrange them and bring in instrumentalists to also add to the instrumentation. It's something that we're very proud of, because we have been able to get artists who wouldn't normally be collaborating to make music together. I think that is pretty much all I wanted to share. There are, out of these programs, there are many different styles and genres that have kind of come together and cross, because obviously we have artists from all over, who have musical, I guess, heritages from all over the place, because Jane and Finch is such a diverse place. So in the first video, you saw a little bit of reggae, you saw a little bit of R&B, there was some Latin music in there. There was one artist was playing more like an upbeat soca type of rhythm. So our music is a reflection of all of that, of all these different styles coming together and creating a unique sound that's unique to the community, and that continues to carry all those different legacies that have been passed on to us by our musical ancestors. And now meeting in a place like Jane and Finch, we're able to sort of create a sound a new sound that represents the community, but that also takes from all these different musical traditions. Today we're gonna get to play a little bit, I think, before we end. So that's what I want you to I want everybody to go to your kitchen and you can get different things, 3 things: either something that you can hit, something that you can shake, or something that you can scrape. Okay, so let me give you an example. You can get spoons. Okay. Or something that you can shake, rattle. Got my vitamin C. Shout out to vitamin C for holding us up during the pandemic. It's almost done. And something that you can scrape. Okay, we got a book here. And the rings. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a beat with the loop station here. It's basically anything that I say into the mic gets recorded when I press the button. Mic gets recorded when I press the button. Anything that I say into the mic gets recorded when I press the button. You get the idea? Okay, so we're gonna just improvise something.
Can you repeat that?
Okay, I'm gonna make a beat, and I want you to get your instrument and you're going to play along with me. Okay? And then when I do this, we're going to stop. And when I do this, we're going to start again. And that's going to be useful for when we do our call and response with a poem that has been created for the purpose of this event. Okay, here we go. We're going to start off with a dance hall style rhythm. I also want to introduce this instrument. This is a flute from Colombia, from the world's tallest coastal mountain. It's ancient since time immemorial, and it's made out of charcoal and wax.
Cool.
The mouthpiece is the quill of a duck's feather, and the body is a cactus. Okay, it comes from the Sierra Nevada, which is the world's tallest coastal mountain in the Caribbean of present-day Colombia. And in this mountain, there are 5 indigenous nations that play this flute. They are the Kogi. Let me hear you say that. I'll say Kogi, you repeat. Kogi.
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 Ika.
Ika.
Ika. Ika.
Wiwa.
Wiwa.
Canquamo.
Canquamo.
Arahuaco.
Arahuaco.
And those are the 5 nations that play this flute, which is, it's ancient from time immemorial. So this is a very important instrument in my work. And I always say, queasy, boomsy melodies trigger hidden memories. And these melodies are what have saved me. They have rescued me. So it's a very important instrument in all the work that I do, including it's the featured instrument in my Juno-nominated album, and it's also the featured instrument in my upcoming album. So let's continue to lay down the beat. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, and start. Five, 6, 7, and stop. Okay, now I'm gonna ask Honor to take a solo with her instrument.
Oh no.
Go on,
okay. Just by myself.
Yes.
Without the music.
That's what a solo is, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Don't call me teacher.
Let's hear it.
Go?
Yep. Keep going. Now I'm gonna count everybody in. You ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. Five, six, 7, and stop. Now I'm gonna ask Dana to take a solo.
Woo!
Keep going. All right, everybody, you ready? 5, 6, 7, and. some noise for yourselves.
Woo! Ow,
And I'm gonna end it there so we can continue and hopefully go to our next jam session, which will include a poem.
We're way over, so.
Oh no, we're good. I think we're good. Yeah, I mean, if the conversation, this is good. This is great. We're doing good. Okay. So do you want to introduce the poem? And
Okay, so we're trying to sort of we're not trying, we're doing. We're actually performing how we want to work together. So we put out a lot of different elements and now we're going to mix them up. And this is kind of the way surrogation works. So we put together a poem. Jackie had done an oral history recording of growing up in Jamaica and coming here. And so we put that to a poem over the last few days, and we've been working on it. It's still a work in progress, but we have enough that we can use it as a basis. So Jackie's going to perform it, and then we're going to go over to Beny, and he'll direct us what to do after that. And we're going to do is try and mix some rhythms with the poem right here on the spot and see how that works out. Okay, so Jax, you ready?
Yeah, remember bring it up.
Okay, so in the meantime, for the sake of time, we're gonna use this same instrumental.
Yeah.
And we're gonna play, and then when I do this, we're gonna stop, and then Jackie's gonna read. As soon as she's done, I'm gonna do this, and then we're gonna play. And then again, I stop, Jackie reads, then I do this, and we play. All right, so pretty straightforward.
So we're gonna do that while we're just gonna do that from the top.
So we'll start playing from the top.
Okay.
And then when Jackie's ready, I'll do this. We stop playing, and then Jackie reads the poem.
Okay. Jax, you cool?
Yeah.
All right, so let's start with the music. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8.
It's a stark reality. Yes, living in the city. When you're under pressure, life's not pretty. But if the old knowledge can grow, then the energy will flow. When you farm your own provision, you lift yourself out of the region.
5, 6, 7, 8.
When I come to Toronto, come strive, I sight up how people here eat and survive. Every day on the run, just a rush for done. Give me food fast, gimme, quick time. Them no eat, them swallow. When them done, them run. And the belly might be full, but them hungry like a bull.
5, 6, 7, 8.
When I was a little youth and first know myself, Granny used to say, remember this, food come first, break the hunger curse. Set up yourself with a careful defense. This is more than dollars and cents. Watch how the elders build up them strength. Plant today, reap tomorrow. Take care of the ground and the ground take care of you. Take care of the ground and the ground take care of you.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Every day she wake up and cooks food out of ground. Plant yam, plant okra, plant peas, can done. Cook pot, take time, share food till everybody belly full and them at ease.
5, 6, 7, and.
But title living, but title giving. Granny make fashion with passion. She spread joy and compassion.
5, 6, 7, and.
Years pass and I turn soul support mom, living in a concrete jungle. Your belly keep a rumble. Nutrition bad. Folks get mad. I sit down and consult my brain. Little by little, I come to practice what Granny explained. I plant in the yard, I plant in the park, mobilize against hunger and suffer no longer.
5, 6, 7, and.
Hunger is a stark reality in Tio. When you're under pressure and live in the city. But when the old knowledge flows, the energy grows. You farm your own provision and lift yourself out of derision.
5, 6, 7, and. 5, 6, 7, and stop.
Woo! Woo!
Make some noise for yourselves, everybody.
Woohoo! Amazing. Woo. Come on. Clapping. That was fun. That was cool.
Yes.
Thanks so much. Did you, so this is really nice to like workshop it in this way. And we have of course we have these, challenges, and because we're separate and we're in different little boxes on the screen. But I think it came together. I think something's coming together, but could you talk about maybe, I don't know if Honor or if maybe Honor and Beny, maybe if you want to talk about like how you might see the creative process for this project. In other words, like how can the talk and the words and the stories come to the song and music, and like, does it involve like distilling the story down to lyrics or rhythm or music? Anyway, so I'm really interested in the collaborative process that you might envision. And I know maybe it's not totally figured out, but did you want to speak to that?
Well, I think for me, it's about playing. It's about having fun, jamming and improvising and finding things that you didn't know that you knew through doing that. So we will try things out. We would try this, maybe we try the verse again and just play around with it and see how what we get out of it. Just try it a million different ways. Try the proposals. Each, like for example, if we start back again with this poem, what we did was put the poem together based on some of the themes in the story that Jackie told. So, and try not to be too preachy so that people want to turn off their headsets. So we started with that, and then we also moved back and forth between the history that Jackie was telling and some of the musical rhythms that we explored, some of them at the beginning of this session, but other ones as well. I think we're going to end with one that we used to sort of try to formulate the rhythm for this. So we'll start with that and then just play around with it. And just like how Beny added in, we didn't plan what he was going to add in. I don't think he'd heard the poem before today. So it was a process of improvisation, a process of call and response, responding to what the other person does, remaining open to what the other person does, and responding and building on it. And then another piece of it is repeat and transform. So working to repeat and change and cut and mix. So we're bringing together things in a kind of bricolage, cut and mix, which is the essence of hip hop, which is the essence of dancehall rhythms, and which is the essence of reggaeton. So it's those different things. It's working with those, is what Jackie called reseeding. And it's also, the other thing is accompanying, like accompanying, tarrying, working alongside. I don't know, Beny, you want to add to that?
I think you said it all.
Was there anything that you wanted to try to, like when, because what we just did, is there anything you kind of wanted to try again, just from that little run through?
I feel like we could continue developing, showing you certain patterns, because a lot of these, out of the sounds that we all have, the important thing too is being able to reinvent your environment and things that would normally not be an instrument, make them into an instrument, and then see what the different timbres are and what type of layers you can create with each pattern. So I would say, if we had more time, then we could start assigning different patterns for, let's say the people who have a lower pitched instrument versus the people who have a shaker versus the people who have something that's in the middle. Then we could assign different parts for the instrumental. Then you could assign sections. And that is all in the development of creating a form and an arrangement in the story that makes sense with the story, right? Because when you develop a song from a story, it's important to be able to consider all of these different parts within the song and how each part of the story can be represented through music and how it leads up to the climax, which is usually the chorus or the hook, or the call and response, refrains, improvisational parts, whether if it's a drummer soloing or an instrumentalist soloing. So those are the different things that I would continue to develop, after this first session that was totally improvised.
Okay, great. I kind of wish we could try some things, but
let's try.
Can we? Yeah.
Let's try this one. This line, this verse here. When I come at Toronto, come strive. A sight of how the people here eat and survive. Everybody on the run, just a rush for done. Give me food fast. Give me quick time. Them not eat, then swallow. When them done, them run. And them belly might be full, but they're hungry like a bull. We could try that. Want to try that? Jax?
Yeah, let's do it. If you want,
or Noel?
I can lay down a different beat. Should we try the same beat or a different one?
Let's try a different one just for fun.
All right, let's try it. Let me see what I come up with.
What about giving us a rhythm and we try to come over it? What about that?
Yeah, I think that could be
How about a beatbox? So sorry.
Sorry?
What?
Are we allowed a beatbox for this
Yeah,
for this activity?
for sure. Beatbox is definitely allowed.
I'm a really good beatboxer. I'll just take that.
Okay, so let me lay down a beat, and then everybody can come up with their patterns, whether it's with their voices or with the instruments that you have. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, definitely, kid.
I'm doing this with an MPC machine over here.
Okay, cool.
All right, so you can come in whenever you're ready.
Ready, Jax?
Can we rap on the beat?
Noel, you still there? They're gone.
They're muted. They just need to unmute.
I feel so inclined to rap on this beat.
I think Jackie's going to be doing some words there, Amir, so hold back.
All right.
Give it little more bass, Beny. It needs more bass.
You need more bass?
Yeah, man.
Okay, let's lay down a bass line.
We need a little bit more of a reggae or reggaeton rhythm.
Right. Everybody on the run. When I come to Toronto, come strive. I set up all the people and eat and survive. Everybody on the run. I rush with freedom. Give me food, give me fast, give me quick time. Then go eat and swallow. When them done, them up. And their belly might be full, but them hungry like a fool. I come to Toronto, come strive. When I come to Toronto, come strive. I set up all the people and eat and survive. Everybody on the run, just a rush we done. Come, give me quick time. When I eat them swallow. When them done, them run. Them belly not big, but them hungry like a bull. What is this?
Food, memory, food, music, food, memory, food,
music, food, memory, food, music, food, memory, food, music, food, memory, food, music, food, memory, food, music, food, memory, food, music, food, memory, food, music, food.
When I come to Toronto and sky, I set up all the people and make eat and survive. Everybody on the run, just a rush we done. Give me food, fast, give me quick time. Them not eat, them swallow. When them done, them run. Them belly might be full, but them hungry like a bull. Them still hungry like a bull.
Food, music, food, memory, food, music, food, memory, food, music, food, memory, food, music.
Hi there. Would I be able to rap about like First Nation stuff on that beat?
What's the rap about First Nations?
Well,
yes, yeah, you should.
All right. Or hit that beat. I'm gonna
Okay,
put myself
ready?
on camera here.
Here
Yep.
we go. 5, 6, 5,
Okay.
6, 7, and 2.
I got a beat here, you know I'm coming through. Rapping here for 4122. We got Lisa Myers as our teacher. She's a fire rapper too. Lisa's got her mixtape. It is gonna drop soon. First Nations water crises. Equity and change. I'm an eccentric rapper. I could be strange. You could hear my raps. Yeah, I've got some range. It's a new chapter this year, so I'm gonna turn the page. No one else here has got as much stuff. You know, it's enough. I'm pretty good of a rapper. I'm not really tough.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's enough.
That's awesome. Wow, that's amazing. You're courageous. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, Amir. I'm honored.
Yeah,
honored to be mentioned. So awesome. I feel immortalized. Thanks so much, Amir. Thanks so much, Beny. And we're getting close to the end, but is there anything anyone wanted to I had a bunch more questions, which is sad for me because I don't get to ask them all. But I guess I feel like maybe if you have some final words for oh shoot, just 1 second, my computer's almost out. I forgot to plug it in. Sorry. But I think some final words, like where do you see this this, where do you want to see this going? Who would you like to invite to this project? If you want to kind of put the word out there for the people that are joining us here in the Zoom call, but also on the YouTube live stream. And if you want to, put some inviting words out to join this project. Honor, you're muted. Sorry, classic, my classic thing that I have to say every. Oh, you're still muted.
Okay,
there
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to get in touch with us about the project, we want to include people who are interested in working on it, either as harvesters of these histories, or as people who would like to contribute their histories to the work, or as so if you're a student and you're interested in food histories, we are looking for about 7 students to work on this. We're starting up now, but we're also looking to build relationships with people who might want to share their stories from around York, from Keelan Finch, from Jana Finch, from we're not rigid about boundaries and borders, but we're also looking for folks there. If you have other ideas or things that you'd like to contribute, we'd love to hear from you. So my email, which I'm going to put in the chat, is the best way to reach us right now, hoperoad@yorku.ca. Oh, I sent it to Dana by mistake, sorry. Okay, so it's here. And that'll have to do for now. Eventually, we'll probably have a project email, but we haven't really got started yet. We have to go through the community ethics review and also our own ethics review. But we are really collecting people and ideas and contributions and inputs at this point. So if you have any insights, anything at all that you want to share, or any even comments on what we presented, because as Lisa's question showed, we're still working out our process. We're still working out our creative process. It is based on improvisation, but improvisation isn't just anything. It's pretty structured. So that's it. That's me. I don't know if the others want to add something.
With this, go for it.
I kind of look forward to like lightening up the mood, because we've been just so buckled down and worried about everything. So I think this is going to be something nurturing to the soul and gives you some freedom to create and explore.
Yay. Noel, did you want to add to that at all?
Not really, a whole lot anyways, but I think this is a good way for us to kind of focus on, it's not about mental issue right now. People are suffering mentally. So this is a way to kind of just bring some solace to our minds and for us to understand that we are not alone. We are all here for each other. And I think food and music is a good medium or nucleus or magnet to pull us together and just work and just have fun amidst all the chaos.
Yeah, I feel like it is a time, because as you were saying, people's mental health is suffering because of isolation and different things, but it's a nice time to listen to each other's stories now, and through music is a really effective way. And then the collaborate, but I think the process is really important to what you're doing. I think I love it so much. I'm so happy that to hear about it and also to be a part of it. Beny, did you want to add anything about this project and who you want to invite, or how what it feels like to be here together even and know the project's going to be even more now?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to developing the project and developing the music and poetry that comes out of it. Music and food are at the center of so many different things. There's so much knowledge there that's important to pass on. So I'm just looking forward to developing the project with these amazing people.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Maybe in the fall we'll have more things to present.
Yes.
It would be fun to do this again. I also, hey, I have a few things to say, but I also wanted to say, Honor, do you think this could be, if students are getting involved, maybe it could be a CAP placement for some of the students? For the
Possibly, yeah.
Cool. Okay, that would be
if we get,
really
we have
awesome.
to get community, we have to move on the community piece. We're behind with that.
Oh, that's of course, yeah.
That's very important. We have to start doing that. So until we have that piece in place, we kind of haven't gone full throttle. But, yeah. So we're just starting. I mean, this is like the first thing we've done together. So this is like the very first thing we've done. So give us a big up, and we can clap ourselves. Yeah. And thank you guys for staying with us for the whole thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. And there's still some people also watching on the YouTube live thing. So there's extra people that we can't see. So I just want to, I want to say that I'm going to close things up here. And I want to say, I so appreciate like the generosity of Beny, Honor, Jacqueline, and Noel to be in conversation today. Is really great. And beyond conversation, like jamming. And I love that. I also love that Noel coined the term, maybe not intentionally, instead of MIIJIM, MIIJAM, which I think it's okay to say that. We got some MIIJAM on today. So anyway, so this has been really fun. So and it's a beautiful way to end the MIIJIM series, because it is kind of sad that it's over, even though it's been a lot of work. It's really exciting, and it's been I've learned so much from everyone that's come to talk to us over the past months, and I want to just say that I want to encourage you to keep in touch with us, Finding Flowers Project on Facebook and Instagram, or through our email, because we have an email. And and I think Dana might share those links in the chat. And we will be launching our website soon. Which will be a very beautiful website, and it will connect to different projects that we're connected to, and it'll have these recordings of the MIIJIM series on the website as well. So please keep in touch, and I'm hoping that maybe MIIJIM will take another form. I don't know, maybe a podcast, maybe something. So I also want to thank all the speakers again from today, but also from all the MIIJIM sessions. It's been my honor to hold space with you, to learn and to share with you. And I also want to thank my colleague, my friend, my fellow artist, Dana Prieto, who has been so amazing, an amazing producer. And I know that like the group today especially can see how amazing and committed that that Dana was to making this happen. And she really kind of whipped us into shape and made sure that we were all together, and like we all had our, that she kept us at the time, everything. She just like really hung in there with all the things we wanted to do today. So it was really beautiful. And she also created all the promotion for the series and has made this series fun and just awesome, and so much developing of the knowledge of our just developing the ideas of all the sessions and stuff like that. Also, I want to thank Sheila Kola, who encouraged us to do this in the summer, and all my colleagues at use Environmental and Urban Change. Miigwech to all of you for joining us and listening and watching. And thank you for the funds, to the funders, the funds that we were able to get to run this series, from the Faculty of Environmental and Urban Change, the Government of Canada, New Frontiers funding, and the York Sustainability Innovation Fund for making it possible to bring so many people together for this series of conversations. So those are all my thank yous, and I just really appreciate all the efforts to make this a beautiful event. And that's the end. So if anyone wants to say anything more, please feel free. And we're gonna go out
with Chronics and Protege.
Yes.
So turn up your volume.
Turn up your volume and shake your asses.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Honor. It's funny.
Sorry, got the wrong video going on. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm coming with the end song.
Oh my my God. God.
And it's a protege, eh? Chronics are where you say, eh? Okay.
Who knows? Just go with flows.
I just go where the trade wind blows, sending love to my friends and I suppose I'm pleased to be chilling in the West Indies. I provide all my wants and needs. I got the sunshine, rivers and trees.
When me see Jah, me see a way. Drastically straight from hypocrisy, I say, hey. Every man to them own a philosophy. I live the proper way and then me read a chapter daily. Monday in a city hungry and no eat. And food they down a country does a drop off of the tree.
Drop off of the tree.
But in no real then is what the reasoning reveal.
Friends and I suppose I'm pleased to be chilling in the West Indies. I provide all my wants and needs.
I got the sunshine, rivers and trees. Green leaves, yeah.
When the rain pits up pot on the roof, herb just a steam pepper pot on the stew. Life is a dream if you got gratitude. So go tell the regime them can't stop what we do now. Information you think on your own, or else you're a slave to the things that you know. What do you know if you learn every day? So be careful of things where you say.
Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
I just go where the trade wind blows, sending love to my friends and foes. And I suppose I'm pleased to be chilling in the West Indies. I provide all my wants and needs. I got the sunshine, rivers and trees. Green leaves.
Africa in our soul, but a Jah in our heart. It is of importance for I and I gather. If we cannot show now a balance that we had, how do we propose then to carry it abroad? Cannot go to Ethiopia and you not have a plan. The building of a nation and a helper on. Every one a lover, one a man is just a man. It shall be a coronation when we land.
Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? I just go where the trade wind blows, sending love to my friends and I suppose I'm pleased to be chilling in the West Indies. I provide all my wants and needs. I got the sunshine, rivers and trees. Green leaves.
And I say we just
who knows? Who knows?
We just move with jive time.
I'm pleased
to be
chilling in the West Indies.
You see that smile on me.
We're done.
Wow. Lovely.
That's a great way to finish it.
Yeah, it's really good. People don't want to leave.
I know, that's what usually happens. At least I don't. Okay, and my class is, we're going to meet for my class after to just go over our little terminology book that we're writing together. So
nice.
We'll see you at the link for our class in a little bit.
Okay.
A few minutes. Anyway.
Everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Much love.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody. Bye.